Hello and welcome to another edition of Business Weekly on City TV with me, Pius Amihere Eduku. Coming up in this edition, banks owed in the energy sector are expected to receive about 160 million cedis by the end of this month. Meanwhile, government net debt in the energy sector hit $2.3 billion as at the end of December last year. Also coming up in this edition, the National Communications Authority (NCA) halted the anti-SIM-bus fraud operations by Subah Infosolutions. Details of these plus other top business stories for the week coming up in this edition. In our first story, about 160 million cedis is expected to hit the account of banks owed the energy sector debt by next week Friday. The payment will be the first to be effected for this year. The state-owned Volta River Authority (VRA) is owing banks to the tune of 4.4 billion cedis. According to the president of the Ghana Association of Bankers and MD of Stanbic Bank Alassane Andani, the resettling of the debt should correct the bad loans of banks and help reduce interest rates in the country. Meanwhile, documents cited by City Business News has shown that government net debt to the energy sector as of December last year was $2.3 billion. Of the amount, the banks are owed $782 million by the VRA, while fuel suppliers are owed $440 million. Other entities owed include Gridco, Nedco, Asogli, Senate, Bui, Ghana Gas, Bost, GMPC, among other power producers. We move to our second headline, and the National Communications Authority (NCA) has directed all mobile network operators to disregard requests by Subah Infosolutions seeking data for its anti-SIM-bus field operations. The NCA cautions that dealing or sharing any information with Subah Infosolutions will be flouting the Electronic Communications Regulation. Meanwhile, the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications has reiterated its aversion at the National Communications Authority's approach in dealing with SIM-bus fraud issues in the country. The CEO of the Telecoms Chamber, Kweku Sechiado, tells City Business News, though his outfit would comply with the directive, he wants the regulator to address the concerns of high call tariffs in the country. Let's now take you to some developments on the economy, where economists are highly expectant of a reduction in the policy rate as the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana announces its new rate next Monday. The economists cite the declining inflation, the relative stability of the cedi, and government's pro-business agenda as the basis for their claims. Also this week, the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union (ICU) implored government not to extend the IMF program to December 2018. ICU maintains that the move will further restrict the economy and hinder job opportunities. Government recently confirmed it is considering extending the agreement with the IMF from March 2018 to December of the same year. But the General Secretary of the ICU, Solomon Kote, tells City Business News the move could pose further hardship should it fully be considered. Also on labor issues, and new figures released by the Ghana Statistical Service have shown that Ghana's unemployment rate hit 11.9% in 2015. This is about twice the figure recorded in 2012-2013, which stood at 5.8%. The report, which is the first of its kind and most detailed, is to guide the government plan in solving the alarming rate of unemployment in the country. Also, unemployment rate is highest in the Upper West region at 18.4% and lowest in the Bono Ahafo region at 8.4%. Meanwhile, about 1/10 of the employed population are underemployed. Of this amount, females account for slightly more than half, while close to half are males. To the central bank now, and some currency analysts have told City Business News that the central bank's $120 million auction for the first quarter of this year to control the city's depreciation has begun yielding the intended result. According to them, the move would have been more effective if the Bank of Ghana had increased its supply of dollars for the first 2 months of the year. The cedi depreciated sharply between January and February this year. However, new figures cited by City Business News indicate that the currency has recorded some relative stability in March. To the aviation sector, and President Nana Akufo-Addo has appointed Mr. John Dichem Atefua as the new managing director of the Ghana Airports Company Limited. Mr. John Atefua replaces Mr. Charles Asari, who resigned from the company last week. Mr. Atefua was the managing director of market research company Virtual Access Limited. He is also a former CEO of the National Petroleum Authority. In our final story, figures from the Ghana Investment Promotion Center (GIPC) have shown that total FDIs to Ghana dropped by about $300 million between 2015 and 2016. According to GIPC, the figure dropped from $2.7 billion in 2015 to $2.4 billion in 2016. But the GIPC has set an ambitious target of $5 billion for 2017. And on that note, we end this week's edition of Business Weekly on City TV. For more business stories, log on to citybusinessnews.com. Join me next week.